federal judge who was appointed by Donald Trump has granted Trump's request for a so-called special master to review documents that were seized by the FBI in his Mar-a-Lago residence. Of course, this is the continuation of the investigation into Trump's possession of highly classified documents that he had multiple opportunities to return to the National Archives but refused to do so. Now, Trump made the argument that some of the documents that were obtained by the FBI from his residence are protected under executive privilege or attorney-client privilege. And so his lawyers tried to get this federal judge to agree to a special master who will review the documents and ensure that there's nothing protected by privilege in this cache of documents that the FBI is now investigating. However, what's really going on here, and I want to be clear, is that Trump is implementing the same tactic that we've seen in every other investigation, which is delay, delay, delay. This is all meant to delay the process, and it appears that he is succeeding in that. This means that federal prosecutors, for now, are barred from using key pieces of evidence as part of their investigation. That's not permanent, but for the time being, that is the case. Now, here is the background to the story. Judge Aileen M of the Federal District Court of the Southern District of Florida ordered the appointment of an independent arbiter to review a trove of material seized last month from Trump's private club and residence in Florida. She also temporarily barred the Justice Department from using the seized materials for any investigative purpose connected to its inquiry of Trump until the work of the arbiter, known as a special master, was completed. Let's also acknowledge that special master is probably the most badass title that anyone could possibly have. And it's unfortunate in this context, but you get what I'm saying.
I think that it's one of the funnier titles.
I want to be a special master.
I think I know some special masters out there, but what they're masters of is a different question. All right, so now, listen, this is an interesting situation because for the first time, I'm now deeply worried about how much Trump has contaminated the judge pool in this country at the federal level.
This is the first time?
No, you can say, hey, listen, to Anna's point, what do you mean first time? Are you crazy? Look at all the judges he put in. But now this is practical. This is the first time we're seeing it live in action. So there's some parts of her ruling that I find to be, relatively straightforward and normal. Sometimes people in the establishment media are freaking out about everything that she said, and I don't think that's justifiable. I'll give you some nuance in a second, right? But a lot of parts of the ruling where you're like, that doesn't even make any sense at all. But if she gets appealed, it's 11th Circuit where 6 out of the 11 judges are Trump appointed. And if that gets appealed, it goes to the Supreme Court where 6 out of the 9 justices are conservative and 3 of them appointed by Trump. So there is a Trump ladder here all the way to the Supreme Court that can say, we don't give a damn what the law is. Trump is not guilty because he's Trump. And she came close to saying that.
Yeah, she did. So I want to get to that because I think that's the most relevant part of her decision here. Because the Justice Department in its court filing, which we covered on the show, tried to make it clear that they don't see Trump or anyone in a position of power as someone who should be treated differently from an ordinary person who does the same thing that he did, right? He broke a law, which was, by the way, made harsher by Trump himself in 2018. He wanted to make a point about Hillary Clinton and her use of a private email server. So in 2018, he made the classified documents laws far more robust in terms of the punishment. And an individual found guilty of mishandling classified documents could serve as much as 5 years in federal prison. Again, that was Trump's doing. But in response to what the DOJ was arguing in its court filing, this judge was like, no, I think Trump should be treated differently. No, she didn't say it in so many words, but I'll give you the words that she did use.
Really close.
Really close. So here it is. Her ruling seemed to carve out a special exception to the normal legal process for the former president and reject the DOJ's implicit argument that Trump be treated like any other investigative subject. She writes in her ruling, even if any assertion of executive privilege by plaintiff ultimately fails in this context, that possibility, even if likely, does not negate a former president's ability to raise the privilege as an initial matter. Judge Cannon said she had made her decisions to ensure at least the appearance of fairness and integrity under the extraordinary circumstances. Okay, so let's pause right there. He's claiming executive privilege. He is not the president of the United States. He took classified and top secret documents home with him from the White House when his term was over. What executive privilege? And what are you talking about when you refer to this as, the appearance of fairness and integrity, when in reality, anyone else who was caught taking classified documents out of the White House, taking it home with them, would certainly suffer consequences far greater than what we're seeing from in regard to Donald Trump and how he's being treated by the courts here. Now, Judge Cannon evinced concern that Trump might suffer reputational harm from a search that was not conducted properly, or, as she added, from a future indictment that was based even in part on property that ought to be returned. Okay, so let's pause. So what do you mean search that was not conducted properly? A federal judge signed a search warrant that had to determine that there was probable cause that Trump had broken the law here. So what do you mean improper search? There was absolutely no specificity in that regard.
Yeah, so she kept saying extraordinary circumstances over and over again. Why is she saying that? She's saying it because she wants to make a Trump exception to the law. And she's basically acknowledging it by saying, yeah, if it was another defendant, we wouldn't have the extraordinary circumstances and we would apply the law to him. But he appointed me, I'm a Trump head, I don't want to apply the law to him. So I'm going to find this, try to find a loophole in the law because the extraordinary circumstances of the harm that the beloved Trump would face here. Well, there's one reason he might face that harm, because he stole classified documents and took them home. And that's what this case is about. Can you be neutral for 1 second? Can you be fair for 1 second? She's avowedly saying, while saying, hey, we really got to be careful to be fair here, saying, now remember, this ruling is, I am not going to be fair. I am not going to apply the law to Trump as I would to any other person. Now, the one part that I think she has an interesting case to make is actually on executive privilege. Now, Biden says, and this has been the rule the entire time, hey, you're a former president, I get to decide as a current president who has executive privilege and who doesn't. So that has been the case for a long time. And the National Archives agrees, everyone in the government agrees, right? But she says, look, the Supreme Court never ruled on it. And maybe the Supreme Court can say executive privilege applies to people, to presidents who also leave office. Brett Kavanaugh, Justice Kavanaugh, has actually said something in a decision that makes you go, uh-oh. He might think that if you're a former president, you could just claim executive privilege
for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and keep evidence hidden so that you're not prosecuted on it. Now, that sounds terrible, and that's the Trump ladder I'm talking about, where they just say, I don't care, extraordinary circumstances, he's allowed to break the law, right? But is it conceivable that the Supreme Court would say that? That yes, no, Trump is allowed to hide some of this evidence because of executive privilege we're now for the first time allowing ex-presidents to have. Yes, it is conceivable that the Supreme Court would say that. So buckle up, brace for impact. So, and by the way, going all the way to the Supreme Court, having them rule on it delays this for such a long time, which is of course what they want to do. Don't look at those documents. Whatever you do, don't look at the stolen classified documents that Trump took. What are you so nervous about? If he didn't do it, wouldn't you want to adjudicate it right away? I know I would, right, if I didn't do it. So look, last thing on this that's important. Anna kind of read you a part of this, but she said Mr. Trump faced, quote, unquantifiable potential harm by way of improper disclosure of sensitive information to the public. I mean, think about how absurd that is. No, there are now people saying, wait a minute, way more than normal number of American spies were caught and killed last year. That is an actual danger. Okay, we have to actually take care of that. We don't know exactly how that happened. That's the whole point of an investigation, right? And these things were sitting in an unlocked linen closet or basement, etc. And people walking in and out with different boxes. God knows what, these are real dangers, but she doesn't think so. She thinks the real danger is to Trump.
His reputation, his poor reputation.
And the harm to his beloved reputation. So this is a deeply biased ruling overall. And by the way, you should know what a special master is for. It isn't for this at all, just so you're not confused.
Right.
A special master is for attorneys that are then charged, like, Better Call Saul, right? And if you've got a criminal attorney, you're bringing someone to make sure that they protect the client's information so that while prosecuting the attorney, you don't actually accidentally see how his clients are guilty. So you bring in a special master and say, hey, you could use that against the attorney, but you can't use that stuff because it implicates his clients. They just took that random law and they were like, maybe it applies to the president.
Right.
And she's like, yeah, sure, why not? Maybe delay it and see how it goes.
And every legal expert who has commented on the judge's decision here in the press has stated that this is unprecedented. And I want to read you one legal expert that was quoted in the New York Times. This is the last graphic. Judge Cannon had a reasonable path she could have taken to appoint a special master to review documents for attorney-client privilege and allow the criminal investigation to continue otherwise, said Ryan Goodman, a New York University law professor. Instead, she chose a radical path. And look, she chose a radical path because she was put in her position of power. She was appointed by Trump in her position of power, specifically to do this, right? Not specifically on this issue, but there's a reason why the right wing has been hyper-focused on installing all of these Federalist Society judges. And to be sure, she is absolutely a Federalist Society judge. In her Senate questionnaire, she described herself as having been a member of the conservative Federalist Society since 2005, and Trump nominated her in May of 2020, and the Senate confirmed her on November 12th, which, as you guys already know, it's only 9 days after he lost re-election.
Yeah, and of course, the idiot Democrats are helping Republicans confirm these judges, and Trump always attacks every time a judge rules against them. He says, oh, Obama judges. By the way, to this point, the Trump judges, at least in the election cases, have been fair. Okay, so that's important context. So they all ruled against Trump. They said you never presented any evidence of election fraud. Every single Trump judge ruled that way. In this case, it looks like we've got a Trump judge saying, no, Trump's more important than the rest of you guys. So we're really worried about it. But whenever anything goes against Trump, he goes, Obama judges. Obama judges.
Yeah.
And his followers believe it completely. They think real judges are the ones that are biased, etc. Now, whenever it's a Trump judge doing something outrageous like this, Democrats never say it because it's the sanctity of the courts and we don't want to be biased. And other Democrats will yell at us if we say things about Trump judges. So as usual, we have an uneven playing field. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.